Hello, everybody, and welcome back to me sitting alone in my office talking to a camera. I am on my lunch break. I have a few minutes before my next patient, and I wanted to talk about one of the patients that I had this morning. Today, I announced to him that he was diabetic. And the first thing that he said to me is, "Oh my God, you're not gonna ask me to cut out my ice cream sandwiches, are you?" And to which I replied, "No, you don't have to cut out your ice cream sandwich." Now, a lot of people will say, "Well, what do you mean, no? I mean, ice cream is not healthy and it's full of calories." And now, what we want when people are diabetic is we want them to achieve a healthy body weight. When you lose weight, visceral adiposity, or the fat that you accumulate in your organs, is the first one to go. So you might not see a big change in your clothing or on your scale, but losing fat that's in your pancreas and in your liver will exponentially be more beneficial to your glucose tolerance, to your blood sugar, than losing fat around your thighs or your butt. How do you lose fat? By achieving a calorie deficit, by achieving a calorie deficit that you sustain over time. Now, an ice cream sandwich is clearly a calorie dense food. So if you're cutting out your ice cream sandwich, you'll probably be cutting out a few hundred calories, bang, like that. But for this patient, he would also be cutting out a significant portion of his happiness. And the goal is to have a sustainable lifestyle change that you can maintain long term. So people that change things that they like doing and don't replace it with another healthier habit that they enjoy typically don't sustain it. So I have more what we call an abundance mindset. Is focus what you're adding to your plate instead of focusing on what you are removing. And in this specific case, we talked about calorie density. We talked about adding foods that are less calorie dense instead of focusing on removing foods that you enjoy eating that are calorie dense. Okay? So I'll link an article below in the comments so you can have access to my calorie density chart. But studies show that if you're eating on average a calorie density of less than 570 calories per pound, that you'll be able to eat until you're full and you won't feel restricted and you will lose weight. Now, most of us eat somewhere between 3 to 4 pounds of food per day. So if you're eating foods less than 570 calories per pound, you're eating somewhere between 18 and 2300 calories, which is maintenance for most people on this group. That doesn't mean that you need to cut out the ice cream sandwich. Now, the ice cream sandwich is calorie dense, and if you have no use for it in your life and you don't mind cutting it out, great. It's going to be easier to achieve a calorie deficit if you're cutting out calorie dense foods. But if ice cream is life and you cannot go a day without having it, well, number one, you might have a dependency on that food, and we've talked about food addiction on past episodes and past blogs. But let's say you're not willing to cut your ice cream sandwich. You don't have to. Choosing foods that have a low calorie density is a great way to start. Now, typically these foods are fruits and veggies. They're whole grains. They're basically plants, dark leafy greens. Now, legumes, for the most part, have a higher calorie density but they keep you fuller for longer, and they actually decrease the calorie intake at the next meal. Now, that being considered, they do decrease the calorie density of your whole food intake during the day. Now, it's what you're doing during the day, during a full day or a full week, that's important. So, if you're going to reduce calorie dense foods and you don't mind doing it, definitely junk food, food that has been processed, where the fiber has been removed and the water that it contains naturally has been removed, that's the way to go. Oils, butter, full fat, typically have the highest calorie densities. And for oil and butter, for example, we're in somewhere in between 3,000 to 4,000 calories per pound. So a tablespoon of oil might put you back 150 calories, but you would have to eat between 4 to 8 cups of strawberries to get the same amount of calories from fruit. Same thing goes for carrots. I mean, I think it's something like 4 cups of carrots, 4 to 8 cups of carrots, to be somewhere in between 100 and 300 calories. Now, your stomach fits about 900 milliliters of food, less than a liter. So if you're eating 4 cups is a liter. And if you're eating 4 cups of carrots and you're getting 200 calories, 200 calories will fill your stomach and will take about 3 to 4 hours to digest, meaning that you'll be in a very big calorie deficit. Now, I don't encourage anyone to eat 4 cups of carrots as a meal, because you'll get a lot of great vitamins and a lot of great fiber, but you'll be deficient in other ones. Variety is the key. But if you eat a variety of veggies and fruits, you can fill up on 4 cups of food when their calorie density is low, and be filled for hours, but you're just taking in a few hundred calories, right? Now, health is typically something that correlates with getting nutrient-dense foods. Nutrient density relates to the amount of nutrients per calorie. So health correlates with nutrient-dense foods while you're eating in a calorie deficit. So if you can eat nutrient-dense foods that are also low in calorie density, you'll live longer, you'll live healthier, you'll have less chronic disease, and you'll lose weight and achieve a healthy body weight. Now, if you'd be to ask, well, what foods have a high nutrient density, but a low calorie density? You guessed it, fruits, veggies, legumes, whole grains. Now, nuts and seeds is where you need to be careful. Nuts and seeds are some of the healthiest foods on the planet, but they're very nutrient dense, but they are calorie dense, meaning that you can take a few handfuls of nuts and set back 500, 600, 700 calories very easily. Now, the difference between nuts and seeds is that they are filled with fiber, and they will typically, when used, it will decrease appetite later because of the prebiotic fiber that they have. Now, that being said, 500 calories of nuts is not the same as 500 calories of ultra-processed foods. The calories are the same, but their capacity of keeping you full for long are not. Typically, people who eat nuts and seeds regularly, in the studies, they do actually have healthy body weights, and typically aren't obese. So keep in mind that these foods, nuts and seeds, even though they're calorie dense, they're super healthy, and they typically help manage appetite and cravings. So just kind of be mindful of that. And what I'm talking about is not roasted nuts and seeds in oil and in salt. I'm talking about raw, right? So moral of the story for this patient in the conversation that we had this morning is that you do not need to cut your ice cream sandwich if your ice cream sandwich is your life. You need to be on a calorie deficit that you sustain over time. That's how you lose weight. And for some people, they'd much rather maybe switch their ultra-processed cereal for oatmeal, or switch their bacon and eggs for oatmeal and berries and nuts and seeds. And that way they'll get more fiber, they'll feel satiated or fuller for longer, end up eating less calories over time and over the day, and they probably can still have their ice cream sandwich if they want to. Now also keep in mind that things that decrease the calorie content of food or of meals in general, because we don't just eat food, we eat meals, we eat foods in combination, is having typically a lot of water, is preloading before your meal with a food that's low in calorie density. That could be eating a salad, or eating vegetables, or eating an apple, and drinking a lot of water half an hour before your meal. It will decrease the total energy uptake during that meal. Don't forget about some simple things like NEAT. NEAT is not a non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It means the calories that you're burning living your life without doing organized exercise. Parking further away at the store, or walking while you're talking on the phone, at home, going up and down the stairs, and doing household chores. Now, all of these things are minimal when they are taken in individually, but they do add up together and lead to sustained calorie deficits over time, right? So think about nutrient density, think about calorie density. Try to have a high nutrient dense food with a food that is low in calorie density. Most people eat 3 or 4 pounds of food, no matter which foods they eat. So if of those 3 or 4 pounds, you're eating more foods that are lower in calorie density, you'll naturally still feel full, feel satisfied and satiated, but you'll be taking in lesser calories on a daily basis, right? Now, I can still tell you how to do it and what to do, and people probably already know most of what I've said today. The trick is the psychology of change and building new habits, right? So I'll talk about habit formation and habit stacking at another future video. But for now, just kind of keep in mind that if your average calorie density is less than 570 calories per pound, typically you're going to be on a calorie deficit and you're going to be losing weight. So I'll link the chart below on foods that are part of this calorie density spectrum, and you choose the foods that you want, right? It's what you're doing cumulatively over time that's going to determine if you're in a calorie deficit or not. And that's how you lose weight. That's how you're going to lose preferentially weight from your liver and pancreas or visceral fat. And that's how you're going to reverse your diabetes, not going on a carb restricted diet. Carbs are necessary for health. Foods that contain carbs are necessary for health. And the goal here is just not having happy blood sugar readings for your diabetes, but having high levels of insulin resistance, because as soon as you go back to your normal diet, when you go back to eating normally, your blood sugar is going to shoot up and it's going to be a temporary solution. So start by trying to get in a calorie deficit. Over time, lose weight, lose visceral adiposity, and you'll reverse your diabetes that way. All right, cool. Thanks for listening. If you've watched till the end, press the like button, and we'll see you at the next video. Cool. Peace.